Heavy rains and flooding killed 2 people in Hadramaut and caused serious damage across the city. UN envoy Hans Grunberg is in Oman to push for Yemen political process. Houthis continue to recruit child soldiers in the group's sectarian summer camps. More than 3,000 displaced families lost their shelters in 5 Yemeni governorates as a result of the heavy rains and floods hitting the country over the past 2 days. On Sunday, the Executive Unit for Displacement reported that Ajouf witnessed heavy wave of torrential rains with more than 1,000 families and more than 9,000 people losing their homes. Heavy rains and flooding caused severe material and human damage in Hadramaut coastal districts. 2 people drowned due to torrential flood waters, while roads and civilian property sustained major damage. This report has more details.
Suffering is the word that describes this man's state after he underwent the effects of the hurricane that hit borders of Yemen. It cost him his living after he was forced to stop work. Mohammed al-Mansouri is a young man who found his only source of income in his car repair shop was about to collapse. Hurricanes and weather depressions caused him huge losses after the heavy flood swept through his shop.
This is not the first time. We've been subjected to floods before. For the 5th or 6th time, they have built houses on the water course of the floods. These waterways are filled with rubbish and waste. We are suffering from this situation and no one but God will help us.
Local authorities and security and military agencies have worked all the day round from the first moment of the depression to help people. They have been working to open roads and removing the remnants of the floods to alleviate the suffering of citizens.
All the combatant teams have started to work according to the plan that was set for the period after weather depression. We are working on this road and then we will move to another one. We keep working with cleaning teams to remove all the waste from the streets.
2 deaths were recorded and damage to agricultural lands, roads, electricity, water and citizens' property as a result of the massive damage after the depression landed in some districts of Hadramaut coast, combined with heavy and torrential rains. Despite the efforts made and the state of alert and preparedness made by the authorities in the governorate in anticipation of the hurricane, the damage is extensive and wide, which underscores the need for urgent intervention to redress the damage and compensate those affected.
UN Special Envoy Hans Grunberg met with the Houthi spokesman Mohammed Abdel Salam as well as senior Omani officials in Muscat. Grunberg discussed ways to make progress on a UN roadmap for Yemen and the need for a wider de-escalation in the Middle East. The U.S. ambassador praised Prime Minister bin Mubarak's efforts to implement reforms and tackle interests and corruption in order to give better services to the Yemeni people. The 2 sides discussed the latest developments at the national and regional levels and the international community's support of the government effort to face economic problems in the country. The Yemeni Judges Club called on the Houthi militia to immediately release lawyer Abdel Wahab Qatran, who has been detained in Sana'a since early January. The association gave the Houthi militia 1 week to release the Judge Abdel Wahab Qatran. The club condemned the militia's unlawful detention of Qatran for more than 3 months without judicial orders and without permission from the Judicial Council. The Executive Unit for Displacement Persons camps revealed the displacement of about 300 Yemeni families from 14 Yemeni governorates in March. The unit said in its monthly report that it tracked the displacement of more than 200 families representing more than 1,000 people in March. 248 families were displaced for the first time, while 48 families were displaced for the second time. Summertime brings with it another round of hardships for the displaced people of Ma'rib, who are forced to live in fragile tents that offer no protection from the sun's heat. This puts the lives of the displaced people in danger, especially women and children. This report has more details.
With the advent of summer, the lives of displaced people become an unbearable hell, as temperatures in the camps rise to high levels, and their dilapidated tents are turned into hot ovens that do not protect them from the heat of the sun or the desert. They live in constant suffering, surrounded by diseases and epidemics in an unhealthy environment. A new suffering added to a long list of the harsh living conditions that displaced people go through in the displacement camps in Ma'rib Governorate.
We are suffering a lot from the extreme heat of the summer. Some people have diseases and they can't withstand such conditions. The humanitarian organizations are showing no support during this hard time. We've been struggling with the heavy rains during winter, and now with the advent of the summer season, we suffer from the extreme heat.
More than 200 shelter camps for displaced people in Ma'rib Governorate include more than 3 million displaced people who were displaced by the war from various parts of the country. They fled to search for a safe haven and a decent life, but they found themselves in camps surrounded by harsh living conditions. The conditions are getting worse with the increase in temperature, especially in camps located in desert areas where displaced people face great risks that threaten their lives and health.
The displaced people here are suffering a lot from this horrible weather. The authorities and the organizations are not helping at all. We don't have air conditioners and the tents are so fragile with no protection.
Many crises are besieging millions of displaced people in Ma'rib Governorate. In addition to the heat of the summer that has turned their lives to hell, the displaced people face difficult living and economic conditions, and the major shortage of food, shelter, and health services. Crises that made the displaced people face an unknown fate in light of the failure of government agencies and international organizations due to their ongoing suffering for 10 years.
Local sources said that the Houthi militia stormed the examination hall at the College of Administrative Science at the Mad University, preventing many students from taking their exams. The militia reportedly expelled students under the pretext of not paying tuition fees. The incident was met with widespread condemnation, with many viewing the suspensions as arbitrary and barbaric. The Houthis say they have recruited thousands of people to their armed forces. Activists report that the militia are recruiting children as young as 13. This report has more details.
The leader of the Houthi militia has called on families in regions under Houthi control in Yemen to encourage their children to join summer camps, a move that has renewed accusations against the militia of child recruitment. The Houthis have faced accusations from the Yemeni government officials, journalists, activists, and human rights organizations that they exploit schools, mosques, and other facilities used for these camps to instruct, recruit, and train children for military purposes against the government. According to experts, the Houthi militia has converted these summer camps into mobilization camps before conscription. Instead of teaching children peace and human values, children in Houthi camps are taught sectarian ideas that inspire hatred, violence, and killing, as well as how to make models for military equipment. Videos from Houthi summer camps in recent years have shown Houthi figures instructing youngsters how to wield weapons, while some children were taken on a tour to the graves of the deceased Houthi warriors. Other children were observed screaming Houthi slogans, vowing allegiance to the militia leader and to battle militia opponents. Critics have warned families living in Houthi-controlled areas not to listen to the militia schools to join summer camps, noting that many graduates of those camps have turned their guns on their own families. Over the course of the 9 years of war since 2014, the Houthis have recruited thousands of children. According to human rights organizations, the Houthis recruited more than 10,000 children. In 2022, the Houthis signed an action plan with the United Nations aimed at ending grave violations against children, including child recruitment, and committed to demobilizing all children from their forces within 6 months.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is working to expand the humanitarian zone in the Gaza Strip as part of preparations for a ground operation in the city of Rafah. The Israeli Broadcasting Corporation said on Monday that Israel is going to expand the humanitarian zone in Gaza, claiming that it's going to create more spaces for displaced persons to seek shelter. The zone has the carrying capacity of 1 million displaced people and 5 field hospitals, extending from Al Mawasi south along the coastal strip to the outskirts of Nusayrat area. Gaza civil defense workers reported finding 190 bodies of Palestinians buried in the area of the Nasser Complex Hospital in Khan Yunis. The bodies were in an advanced stage of rot, decomposition, and even undress, exhibiting signs of torture and abuse. More than 2,000 people are still missing after the Khan Yunis massacre and the occupation forces withdrawal from the Gaza Strip. 6 people were injured by live bullets in a shelter attack on Ramallah in the West Bank. The Palestinian news agency reported that settlers attacked the village from the north and west, burning down a barn and burning many homes. Israeli forces stormed the village to provide protection for the settlers, firing bullets, stun grenades, and tear gas at Palestinians. They reportedly hindered the arrival of civil defense crews and prevented the firefighters from stopping the fire. European Union Foreign and Security Policy Coordinator condemned the escalation of settler attacks against Palestinians in the West Bank. In addition, ahead of a meeting of the European Foreign Affairs Council, he stated that the European Union must once again consider imposing sanctions against settlers who practice violence. He added that Ireland and Spain asked the Council to analyze Israel's behavior and consider the association agreement between the Union and Israel. Coming next in the news. Massam project for demining removes more than 800 Houthi mines in a week. Welcome back. The Massam project for demining continues to clear Yemeni lands of mines and explosive devices planted by the Houthis, posing a great risk to civilians. This report has more details.
Saudi Arabia's Project Massam cleared 857 mines in Yemen, which had been planted by the Houthi militia between April 13 to 19, according to a recent report. Overseen by the kingdom's aid agency KS Relief, the project special teams destroyed 782 items of unexploded ordnance and 75 anti-tank mines. The explosives, which were planted indiscriminately by the Houthis across Yemen, posed a threat to civilians, including children, women, and elders. Project Massam is one of several initiatives undertaken by Saudi Arabia at the request of King Salman, which has cleared routes for humanitarian aid to reach the country's citizens. The demining operations took place in Ma'rib, Aden, Jawf, Shabwa, Taiz Hodeidah, Lahj Sana'a, El Baida, El Dala, and Saada. A total of 437,616 mines have been cleared since the start of the initiative in 2018, according to Osama Qusaybi, the project's managing director. These include 279,002 items of unexploded ordnance, 144,101 anti-tank mines, 8,018 improvised explosive devices, and 6,495 anti-personnel mines. The initiative trains local demining engineers and provides them with modern equipment. It also offers support to Yemenis injured by the devices. About 5 million people have been forced to flee their homes since the beginning of the conflict in Yemen, many of them displaced by the presence of landmines. Massam teams are tasked with clearing villages, roads, and schools to facilitate the safe movement of civilians and the delivery of humanitarian aid.
The Houthi militia sparked widespread discontent in Yemeni circles after images circulated of the group engaging in inappropriate behavior in a Saleh mosque. In a sectarian gathering held on holy grounds, the Houthis were chewing on qat, a local narcotic consumed in gatherings. The Yemeni Journalist Syndicate documented 17 violations against media freedoms in the first quarter of this year. The union monitored 17 violations, including lack of freedom, attacks on journalists and press institutions, threats and incitement against journalists, confiscation and suspension, and forced deportation of journalists from a foreign country. Houthi militia is threatening human rights advocates who denounced the entry of prohibited fertilizers and pesticides into Yemen. In addition, despite the impact the toxic fertilizers have on civilians, the Houthi militia continues to threaten opponents if they continue to publish information regarding the amounts of banned pesticides and fertilizers that were permitted into Yemen. Government sources in Taiz announced that cholera cases had risen to more than 450 cases as of yesterday. During her visit to the cholera treatment center at the Republican Hospital, the Taiz Governor Undersecretary for Health Affairs confirmed that 453 suspected cases of cholera were recorded in the governorate, of which 150 cases were confirmed. She added that 7 people died due to the disease.
Cholera is a bacterial disease that spreads when there is a lack of safe drinking water. It causes acute diarrhea with severe dehydration and can be highly infectious. It can kill within hours. However, it is easily preventable and treatable. MSF teams are doing whatever they can to respond, treating thousands of patients and providing clean drinking water in 10 countries. But with so many outbreaks ongoing, needs are huge on a global scale. Ultimately, no one should die of a preventable disease such as cholera. We must work together to curb these outbreaks.
Here's a reminder of the main headlines. Heavy rains and flooding killed 2 people in Hadramaut and caused serious damage across the city. UN envoy Hans Grunberg is in Oman to push for Yemen political process. Houthis continue to recruit child soldiers in the group's sectarian summer camps. This is the end of the news. Thank you for watching.